It's the Dad the Rock After Show. Now, here's Chris and Sean.
Welcome back to the Dad and Rock After Show. This is Sean.
And this is Chris.
And tonight we're talking about the first 3 episodes, the grand premiere of season 2 of The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power on Amazon Prime Video.
There we go. You got to get it all in.
All in there.
So if you guys are new to us, great. Thanks for finding us. Thanks for joining us and everything. Hit that like button. Hit the subscribe button. We are talking about these in the most casual way. We love this property. We are going to screw things up. So, so we want you here to correct us. But like our banner,
we're going to mispronounce things of places, people, events. We're going to mispronounce them. We're going to call them by the wrong name completely. We're going to speculate on things that are pretty well known in Tolkien verse. Because great, look, we're fans. We are fans of the Peter Jackson movies for sure. I've read some of the books, or tried to at least. But we're mostly just casual fans of Lord of the Rings, even though we do love the movies. But we're going to get stuff wrong, and we're going to give you our honest and fair reactions to the show. If we think an episode's a stinker, we'll let you know. Or if we love it, we'll let you know that too.
You know what? A fair idea. Go back and watch our House of Dragon stuff.
Yeah.
That will give you a good idea of exactly what we are, how we are, and how we do things. Okay, let's get into this. What'd you think? First 3 episodes. Let's give you an overview of the first 3 episodes.
I'm going to say that this season 2 started way better than the first season. I think the first season took a long time to kind of ramp up to the point where, like, all that stuff where Galadriel, like, searching through the snow for, signs of Sauron and stuff, it was a little, like, yawn-worthy. This one kind of, like, picks up pretty much right where we left off from season 1. We're post Mordor being birthed, and everybody's kind of cast in different spots. And there wasn't a character that I was disinterested in, as far as just like every time that we shifted to a different storyline or plot line, I was into it. I was like, okay, let's check in with them. Okay, let's check in with them. And I wasn't bored with any of it thus far.
It was quick. We didn't linger on any character or any story for any length of time.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, giving an example, like last season with the Harfoots. We went to them so many times, and I feel like half the time we went to them was unnecessary.
Yeah.
This season here, like, I loved how it started at the birth of the Second Age.
Right.
And it showed us everything. It showed us Sauron getting murdered by Anatar. And then all the orcs jumping on him, and then him becoming the best thing I've heard of the explanation of what he became was a symbiote. He just starts crawling.
Like yeah,
and then he does his thing, finds a way back to to the body that we knew of him,
right?
And Helbram.
When he ate that squirrel, I was a little disappointed that he didn't become a squirrel first before he became human.
What I was hoping. I was hoping he would become some type of animal. I almost hoped he would become that woman.
Yeah,
and then turn into what we know him. But that's just kind of
how funny would that be if a little Sauron in the form of a squirrel jumping around? Oh gosh,
that would have been great. But I loved how they showed us that. I loved how they showed us how the area became frozen, because that's where we seen Galadriel in the beginning of season 1. They explained that, and that first episode, almost the first 20 minutes of it, was pre-opening title.
It was a little bit of backstory. It was a lot of bit of backstory, honestly. And it was pretty well done, where it fit really well with how we led up to how things were in the first season with that one character by the name of is it Attar? Yeah. The current leader, or the
Attar,
current father of the orcs.
But I mean, I didn't have much of an issue. Episode 3 for me didn't really do it for me. I mean, if I'm being honest, that's the one that I think I had the biggest issue with, because quite frankly, I know Numenor is extremely important. Mm-hmm. Everything that happens at Numenor is wildly important to this whole world. But you want to know something? I don't care.
Okay.
Nothing about what's happening in Numenor right now has me invested. I'm invested in what's happening with Khazad-dûm, with Durin and is it Isa and his dad, and how he lost his inheritance, and he was down and he was getting his hands bloodied, and everything down those lines. Uh, I like what's happening with Poppy. Well, now Poppy, Nori,
Yeah,
and the
Nori
stranger.
and the stranger. Even that stuff, which was kind of a slow burn last season. I guess maybe because they're in more danger this time around because it's just them and
Yeah,
people after them, and like we meet another wizard apparently. Like that's a big deal.
yeah,
The one guy with the staff, who's actually played by Kieran Murphy or Kieran something.
yeah.
The guy was in Game of Thrones.
And they just called him a dark wizard. There was nothing
Right.
else around, so we don't know if he's a blue wizard. We don't know what's going on. There was an elvish term or some type of term in Middle Earth that when they
Oh, the
referred,
Ishtar. The Ishtar. That's the term. I think it is Elven for what they are, which the common folk just call them the wizards. But
yeah,
yeah, because they're not. I mean, they're not human. They're basically like these almost like godly apparitions that come from Valinor or whatever, and
yeah.
take on the form of old men.
Well, I mean, and that's what they refer to the stranger as. When he actually went ahead and threw that, when he finally found that staff at that well, he pounded the ground and made this tornado come up, which
Yes,
whoopsie. I mean,
that staff wasn't cutting it. It was just a stick by the well. Turns out.
and yeah, and
Yeah.
it went bye byes. But as a
Yeah.
whole, I think they listened. They sped things up. They didn't
Yeah.
linger in spots. The dialogue I thought was better along the way. A lot of it had me a lot more, invested in what was happening. There
Mhm.
was times where I wanted to pick up my phone, so I can't give it a full, amazing because I did.
Were those times in Numenor specifically?
Yeah, majority of the time in Numenor.
Yeah.
Anything that was happening with Numenor, when it was dealing with, oh, what's the son's name, which we found out he lived and he wound up in
Isildur.
Sealdor. Some of the things with the Sealdor, I just didn't. I am not invested in that storyline or that part of the story right now yet.
Yeah. Yeah, the stuff with Isildur I thought was good too, kinda catching up with characters like the one elven character, what's his name? Of course, it's just out of view here. I've got IMDb up. Oh, Arendir. We found out yeah, it was as I'm watching these 3 episodes, I'm also trying to because I didn't watch any recaps or anything for the 1st season.
I watched a
Was tr
12-minute recap from Nerd of the Ring on season 1, and talking about watching a season on speed. That was something.
Oh, I bet. Because, what's her name? Bronwyn, the love interest of the elf, wasn't she, like, harmed, but then, like, cured, but now she's dead again? Isn't that what
Yeah,
happened? Did she actually
she got
die?
hurt, but
And then I thought
between
she got
when
healed.
between I guess when we were ended off and when we picked up, yeah, she winds up passing away. And
That feels like they just wanted to write the character off, like they weren't sure what to do with her at the end of last season, and then between seasons, they're like, we don't really have anything
well, it's
for her."
almost like they had to figure out a way to do something that they had to harden her son
Yeah,
for
yeah,
some
yeah.
reason. I feel like that was needed to go ahead and harden him to move his storyline forward.
I mean, to be fair, that probably is the more interesting storyline to go with. If you have somebody that was basically tangentially like the link between these two characters, and that link is gone. What does that mean for these two characters? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's it. That's interesting to explore.
I mean,
Um,
you have the elf as well, the one that was protecting the actual uh the city that basically he failed. I don't remember what his name. He's basically the jumping around with the arrows and everything. So
Arendir. Here's the one that was in love with Bronwyn, right?
yeah, I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
the conversation between him and her son,
yeah.
I thought was like okay, and he's like, you know what, I'm done. You're no one to me. Why are you still hanging around? Leave me alone.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like bridging that gap between those two characters is an interesting way to go to see to explore that. Like either it's done now, or there's probably more to see there. I'm sure.
I think he's gonna wind up on the other side.
Yeah.
I think like kind of the hatred of the elves is gonna start breeding in him, and I think he may wind up with a ring. One of the 7, like we got to move forward. We
Oh,
got to
we
move
do.
forward quite
Yeah,
a ways, and he's got to get older. But
that's
I can,
such a good point. Some of these humans, some of these men are going to be ring bearers too.
yeah.
That's interesting.
And
Yeah, some of the
was it
characters that we
9
know.
rings for men?
I I think it was. Yeah, I think was
Yeah,
it 3, 7, and 9, something like that.
yeah. So I mean,
Um,
if they can move him forward, and he can become a ring wrath, or if he becomes a who was that? The king in the city that they took over. I can't remember the name of the specific character later
Oh,
on
I
in.
forget. Yeah, I know with the ghostly green
Yeah,
wispy king. Yeah, yeah,
I mean, if he becomes him, I think there's
right.
so many fun things, and that they're leaning so heavily into his character that with the hatred, with all that, I really think that they're pushing him that way, away
Yeah,
from the light, essentially.
yeah, which is interesting with this show because you see you even see the stuff with started last season with Sauron, masquerading as Hilbrand, and just like this is a character, he's kind of intriguing. There's something about him where he just seems a little bit off, but Galadriel seems to trust him, so it's like as a viewer, it's like, well, maybe I should trust him. And that was a lot of themes that were kind of fun this time around too. In these first 3 episodes, where Galadriel just feels like a damn fool,
Yeah,
and it's affected her relationship
with Elrond.
with Elrond and that
Yeah.
stuff. And I thought it's not like they wrapped it up real quick either. It's like those
Oh, and it's
feelings
still
are
going. Yeah, because
yeah.
I like how they picked up their characters. It was almost like they went backwards and they were kids and they were playing some type of game. Like I didn't
Mhm.
quite grasp what was happening when they were on the horses and they were racing towards the High King. I mean,
Yeah.
Elrond was going to tell on her. I mean, tattle on his little sister essentially. That's kind of how I
Yeah,
felt
I'm
that.
not sure why Galadriel in the moment decided to keep that a secret. Maybe because she felt so foolish because she was the one to introduce this guy to like this, all these
I
people.
could see it being pride.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think that's
Based
probably what
on
it
what they
was.
showed us in the first season, I feel like is too prideful to
Yeah.
admit that she screwed up, and she screwed up big.
Yeah. Um, Celebrimbor is bigger so far in the season too. He's kind of a minor character last year, but between him and Anatar, aka Halbrand, aka Sauron,
Sauron, yeah. The bringer of
um,
gifts.
the bringer of gifts, yeah, their relationship because Celebrimbor, he is a powerful, kind of ancient elf in his own right that's like coming into his own. This he's always been this skilled craftsman, but now he's like reaching his peak with a little, just with a little help from his new friend, right? And
Yeah.
that whole dynamic is interesting too because Celebrimborn isn't like this sniveling, just follower of Sauron. You know what I mean? Like he I guess, and maybe this might be the trick that Sauron plays is like you are my equal, and we're gonna
Yeah.
do this
Well, I
together.
love when Sarah he's whispering in everyone's ears.
Yeah.
When he was still Hellbrun, he actually got back in the good graces of Celebrimbor.
Hmm.
Or, when he's up there and he changes into Anadar, and right for not Anadar,
Yeah, Anatar.
and
Yeah.
Anadar, okay, yeah, right in front of him, basically, and he's just like he walks out of the kiln, kind of like a Jesus figure, essentially.
Yeah, yeah.
So he's
Oh,
like
and the effect was like awesome because like it's like he's coming, it's light coming down like he's standing in the sky, but also it turns into smoke that kind of evaporates from the kiln. That whole shot was like that
yeah.
was pretty cool.
Well,
That's another thing to mention too is how good everything looked.
everything from this show has looked phenomenal.
Yeah,
Nothing has looked bad at all.
yeah,
So
yeah. The effects with the how about the spider when Isildur was in that cave with all those spiders and his
and
horse
his
was trying to
horse
get him?
came in, and then he starts. Well, did you see what that one spider did to the orc?
Oh
He,
yeah, it
pop,
just like
he
popped his head
popped his head. I'm like, holy
like a
crap!
zit.
I was like,
Yeah,
I was like,
that whole scene.
I knew he was getting it. They wouldn't have him survive the ending of season 1 to die there.
Well, I mean, Isildur he's I mean, spoiler alert. He's the guy that cuts the ring off of Sauron's,
Yeah, right. Come on.
He's kind of a
He-
big
he's
deal.
kind of a big, yeah.
Yeah, he'll be
It's funny
around.
when you're watching videos like, spoiler alert, he didn't die.
Right, yeah. But Elendil doesn't know that, and his sister doesn't know that. So that is one interesting thing about
Yeah,
Numenor is that
yeah.
they,
That politics though, with the Palantir and now the blind, the queen, like what was her name?
her name is Queen Regent Muriel.
Yeah. I mean, I like her. She feels regal to me. Everything about what she does feels regal. When she gets smacked by that one lady, she just grabs her and mourns with her.
Yeah, that scene is specifically set up, I think, to have the viewers choose a side when I think we were already kind of on her side because of how she got in the boat with everybody and went across the sea.
Yeah.
Like, true leaders lead by leading. You know what I mean? They lead from the front, not from the back. And she was that type of character last season. And but that kind of solidified it where it was like, she's not going to be upset and mad at this. Any other evil queen or whatever would like have that woman hanged. You know what I mean? Like we've
Yeah.
seen plenty of that stuff from Game of Thrones, and she's not that. I mean, she's mourning with the people.
But the thing is, the one thing that's lost in this whole thing of all these people mourning is none of these men from Numenor went against their will. They all volunteered to go. And I feel
Right.
like they completely just glossed over that in these
Yeah.
first 3 episodes when everything that came with Numenor.
I think they probably didn't do enough to show the disparity because the show made it feel like the entirety of Numenor was against her. When really we only had really the one scene of Isildur's friend that ran into like the group that was conspiring
With
at the
his
table.
sister or the
Yeah, that really kind of stood up and like put them in their place as far as like because he
that
recognized what was
sniveling
happening there.
little like punk. The one that stood
Yeah.
up with him is like, yeah, dude, you may want to sit down because I don't think this is going to end well for you.
No, yeah, but that's really the only example of like the opposite or the opposing point of view. Every other town person seems to be on the side of the black and gray haired dude that I forget the name of, the other politician.
Oh yeah, I like him though too. I mean, he's
Yeah,
kind of a weasel,
right.
but I like his character, Faison, Farazan.
Faison, that's right. Yeah. And how that ended with the eagle landing, like me as a viewer, I'm wondering like, is that eagle there because it champions the queen or it champions this guy?
I
And I
took
guess
it champions the queen, and he didn't. The eagle had no idea what was happening prior because there was already shown. They was already circling the mountain like they
yeah.
do, and it came and landed, and that should have been a signal for the queen regent.
But then a random townsperson's just like, "Oh, he likes Ferris."
Well, it wasn't a random guy. It was one of the guys that was sitting around the table that were
Oh,
conspiring.
that's right. He was one of those guys. That's
Yes,
right.
as soon
Yeah.
as he's seen it, he's seen his angle, and he's
Hey,
like,
he
"You
took a
went with it."
shot. Yeah.
He
First
took
one
a
to
shot
speak
at
up.
it, and everyone went with him. And I'm the more and more I see the people of Numenor, the more and more I think they're fools. Like none of them are. They're not smart. I mean, I don't know if it's what they're. I don't know. It's like
Let's,
the elves are
I
coming for our jobs because
they took our jobs.
yeah, because what's her name showed up on their island. Oh no, we can't have any elvish artifacts because they're terrible. Yeah,
I look, I get it.
the fall of
Uh
Numenor needs to happen soon because I want to see those people just washed into the ocean and let's move on. I'm
oh no. That's tough.
I'm kind of done with Numenor. Nothing about Numenor is intriguing to me. Is I don't know. Well, we'll see what happens. We got plenty of time left for them to go ahead and do it. But season 1 didn't do it for me. Season 2's
Yeah.
episode time with Numenor hasn't done anything for me.
Yeah.
I want to see Mr. Bombadil, but hopefully that's soon.
Oh, that's probably down the line, yeah. What's funny is that you were saying you're kind of I let you go, but what you were saying Numenor is kind of like I thought you were gonna draw comparisons of Numenor to like modern day America with
I
how
pulled the
like
plug. You knew where I
politically
was going, but I
divided it
pulled the
is.
plug on it.
And then you were like, I'm just done with it. I want to see everybody washed away. And I'm just like, oh God, no, we can be better, I promise.
We just need a tsunami. Whoosh.
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, like I'm kind of with you on that, but I think there's enough there to be. I don't think it's going to be like a dead weight plot line throughout the whole season. I think there's a chance for that area, that plot, that story thread to get a bit better.
Well, yeah,
Um, es-
they have to actually sail east. They got to
yeah,
come over. They got to go ahead and set up more areas. There's a bunch that goes along with Numenor prior to it actually falling. But I'm like, I want to see more from Khazad-dûm. I want to see
yeah,
more from the Stranger. Now I want to see more from this Dark Wizard. What's going on with this dude? And who are these guys that are following the Stranger, Nori, and Poppy?
yeah.
So they set up a lot. And okay, why in the Sam Hell
Uh-oh.
would you, when the bucket drops and you
Uh-huh.
hear this bell ringing, would nobody
I know all
go
three
over
of them.
and stop this bell knowing they're being followed?
They're just like water, water, water.
And then they
Oh,
start
what's that
splashing
belt
each other
for?
with it. You're like, oh, water fight, water balloons.
Yeah.
I'm like, come on. I hear ding, 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 ding. All I hear is dinner bell.
Yeah, there were one or two scenes. I forget the other couple that struck me as a little like, kind of took me out a little bit. That the show is not without its scenes like that where it's a little hard to believe. That's for sure. You know, it's funny. It's just like these fantasy shows with all like this unbelievable stuff, and you can buy into the world, but like scenes where it's like, well, why wouldn't they just stop that bell from ringing? That's what takes you out of it.
Yeah,
Not all the magic.
that's the line too far.
Right.
Just the staff starting a tornado. That I can handle that. The
Sure.
ringing bell, no one stopping. Nah.
That's the last we saw of Nori and Poppy too, right?
Yeah,
I
then
mean, they
that
were
was in
separated.
episode 2 when they got whisked away.
Yeah,
That was the last time, and I'm not sure exactly how they're gonna.
they're probably dead. What do you think? Are they dead?
Sure.
Are they in Oz?
They're in Oz. They found Toto.
Yeah.
I loved all the stuff that's happening in Khazad-dûm. I love the
Yeah.
juxtaposition of two stubborn people
Yeah.
not wanting to talk to each other because they're the same person.
Doran and Doran, yeah.
And then you have Issa going to King Durham, and trying to bridge the gap and not being scared of him. I mean, it's a father-in-law. She doesn't care what's on his head.
Yeah.
She basically yelled at him and chasticated him right there on the spot, knowing that Duran, her husband, won't come.
Right.
He's not going to come either. But they both want to talk. They
Yeah.
both want to mend fences, but neither of them want to look weak in the process.
You know, I was so afraid when inside Khazad-dûm there was the rumbling, and when stuff started to fall, I was like, "Oh no, they're gonna do the Balrog thing like way earlier than it should
so
be."
happy they
Especially
did.
since they teased the Balrog last
Mhm.
season, and I was like, "Oh god, here it comes." I wish they wouldn't do that, and they didn't. All it was, I don't really know what happened. Some kind of earthquake, but
It was the eruption of Mount Doom. The
oh,
eruption of Mount
I didn't
Doom.
put that together.
Because they showed it on the map. If you look at when the map, so the eruption of Mount Doom happens, and then the map that they show us, there's like black types like lines going out, and that goes right to Khazad-dûm, and that's
I
when they
see.
shows Dern and Disa in
Yeah,
the market, and he's
right,
like he wants the big mushroom, but she tells him, well, I can't, I gotta tighten the purse strings, and I can't shop, so this little one's for you.
right, yeah.
And then she hears something, puts her hand down to the ground, and she tells everyone to hold on. And that's when the lights go out, the whole thing
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah, that was cool, and I'm glad they didn't go the Balrog. I think you can tease the Balrog more by rumblings like that. Like you can see like maybe the Balrog is just like stirring awake over a long span of time, and not all of a sudden like, oh, I'm awake, and then he start immediately like attacking everybody. But if he's just like slowly, I mean, you would think like an ancient evil would slowly reawaken. You know what I mean? Over a span of some
Well, even if
decades.
he's awake and he's too deep, they haven't
Yeah,
dug deep enough to
right.
actually get to him.
Yeah,
Like we
and
know he's
that's
there. They don't know
right.
he's there, but they're still digging for Mithril.
And that's what Sauron said in the trilogy originally, is that the dwarves dug too greedily and too deeply, and that's what stirred up. That's what awoke
That's awoken the
Balrog. Yeah,
Balrog, yeah. And I mean, we know he's there, and if they keep going, because now we went ahead and they've got the more Mithril, they went ahead and gave to Kellen Brimbor for
yeah,
the rings for the dwarves,
yeah,
which I love that too. I love the fact that finally when the Durans got together and they were speaking, and I'm just gonna say son. I'm not gonna keep on.
son Durin, Durin the
Durin,
son.
went ahead and basically said he was sorry and everything. They
Yeah,
kind of mended fences, but he even admitted that he thinks his dad was right in a way, and he doesn't trust these rings. He doesn't
yeah.
think the rings are going to heal the mountain in the way that they say they're going to.
Dude, Durin was smelling out. He was sniffing out Sauron a mile away. He was just like, so interesting how you talk about Elrond like you guys are chaps, but he never mentioned you at all. Like he was
Or,
just like so like he was on to him
or he
hardcore.
was like, Elrond would never say something nice to me. No, they bust
Right.
each other's balls more than anything.
And really it's just like, um it makes sense in a way because if Celebrimbor vouches for this guy, then I can see that giving a lot of leeway to a lot of people being like, "Who the hell are you? Just stepped out of where? Like, who are you? Where'd you come from? What are your intentions?" That would be the natural reaction, especially with the elves, I think, because they're typically. But if Celebrimbor is not only vouching for the guy, but also like kind of keeping it secret and on the down low from the rest of the Elven
Yeah, he's
kingdom,
not even telling the High King. He is really quick
right?
to go ahead and lie to the High King about what they're doing.
Yeah,
So I
which
mean,
Sauron was just like,
yeah, he's
yes,
oh, so you know
yes.
what I love too? So they were very adamant with the first 3 rings that the elves have,
Yeah,
that Sauron had nothing to do with them. Sauron, he never touched them, he never did anything with them. So they are actually clean of his power, of his manipulation,
right.
which we know is
They're inspired by Sauron's words or whatever, but Celebrimbor, yeah, was the one who actually crafted them whole cloth
yes.
by himself. Yeah.
So when they got the second chunk of mithril and they're going ahead and making the ones for the dwarfs, I love the fact that he took it from Celebrimbor, had it
Yeah.
in his hand, and you see him close his fist on it, and it's almost like you can hear him say something. He didn't. There was nothing verbal,
Right.
but just by watching his body language and watching what he's doing in his hand, and then
Yeah.
releasing it, you know he just did something
Right.
to that mithril, which is going to forge these rings.
And just like how, and this has always been genius about this world building that Tolkien's done, because when we get into Lord of the Rings, I mean, this is all backstory. This is what Galadriel, Kate Winslet? No. Is that her
Beckinsale.
name? Kate Beckinsale. No, that's the underworld. Um oh, crap. What's her name?
I know.
She's
I can see her face. Yes.
I gotta know her name now. Galadriel, Kate Blanchett. Thank
Blanchett.
you.
I know
That
there's many Kates out there.
But Kate Blanchett literally like condenses the entirety of the Second Age basically in like 5 minutes before we get into the trilogy, and One Ring to rule them all. You know what I mean? Just like, and we're seeing it like in real time. Well, not real time, but like we're seeing it all come together, and that's so interesting. Now, that's another thing I wanted to, I guess, differentiate the first season and second season. First season, we didn't get a ring until like the last episode.
Yeah.
And this season, we're churning them out, baby.
Yeah,
We're
because we already
churning out
got the
these
3,
rings.
got the 3 at the end of the first season. Now
Yeah,
we're gonna go ahead and get all the ones for the dwarves by the end of what I also really liked was when he was still in the form of
Calbrand.
not Hellbrand. Yeah, Hellbrand.
Yeah.
He was going ahead and trying to get the ones for the men.
Yes.
And they were like, well, men are corruptible easily. But then he was like, the High King thinks, the dwarves are corruptible. So
Yeah.
he's turning all these words on them. And it's fun to watch the manipulation because you can see things changing.
Right.
And like when we haven't even talked about the Elven rings with the High King having one, Galadriel having one, and the Master of Boats. I can't remember. I'm not sure of his name off the
I
top of my
forget
head.
his name too. Yeah, but when I heard his name, I know I've heard it
Yeah,
before.
he
Yeah.
apparently he is super important, to the
Yeah.
story and everything going forward. But I loved when he was sitting down next to the tide pool and Elrond walks by.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "Do you judge something by who they are or what they made?" Like he was
Yeah.
talking about, like I guess an elven, lord who wrote this play or whatever song, but
It
he
was a
says they were a
drunkard.
drunkard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you judge them by the drunkard or by the miraculous stuff they did actually you or made?
Yeah.
So just the juxtaposition between the two was fun, and how he put his hand in the water and he was like manipulating the fish and everything, and he had the
Mm-hmm.
one jump up on the rock. So you actually finally get to see one of the rings truly in power. But then you have those conversations between Galadriel and the High King.
Yeah.
That relationship is turning into probably the second best one I enjoy.
Yeah. It's
Outside
interesting.
of Dern and Issa,
Yeah.
It's those two because now they're being real with each other.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
she came clean finally. It's like I have my senses are heightened with this. I am seeing things that I wouldn't have seen. And
Yeah.
he comes clean with her too. He's like he's seeing things and it's kind of manipulating him a little bit. Manipulating is probably the wrong word, but he's more aware of things now than
Right.
he would have been if he takes the ring off. And how he's like, I'm not sending you to fight Sauron because he's already manipulated you. You
Yeah.
need to go with somebody else because he's already twisted you to the point where he made you look like a fool. And he knows if she goes by himself, she's gonna die.
Yeah, the cap on that one conversation they had where Galadriel's just like, I got to let you know that I'm not going to stop to the ends of the earth until I destroy Sauron. And he's like, if I expected any different, then you wouldn't be standing here right now. Like, he knows that as far as a weapon against Sauron, you got to have Galadriel on the
Yeah.
table.
Yeah,
You don't
she
take her
is.
off the board.
Yeah, no, she's absolutely there. You can't do anything with. But how about we didn't even talk about this? When Elrond's like, I'm not handing these rings over, and dude went all freaking, Laura Croft off the top of a waterfall.
Oh, yeah, Elrond. Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
he jumped off it, hid underneath the bridge, and then he snuck into in the boathouse. And he's
that's
kind of
why
hung out there.
That's why I think that spoiler alert, Elrond gets a ring eventually. And I think he probably inherits either the king's ring or the ring. It's probably the ring of the boat maker, but
That makes the most
um,
sense.
yeah. But Elrond is, what do you do? It's like any kind of power. You know what I mean? Do you give it to the person that's just like, "Ooh, yeah, power. Can't wait to get that power," or the one person that's like, I don't want that power." You know what I mean? You give it to the
Yeah.
guy that's going to be more responsible. It's kind of like the old Jon Snow effect.
Well, I like the fact that like they're showing the stress of the relationship between Galadriel and Elrond.
Yeah.
It's like there is a tension right there because one wants to believe it that it will help. They've already seen it heal the tree,
Yeah.
but the other one still doesn't trust him at all. He's like, there's no way that we can say with 100%, that Sauron hasn't done something to these. And in the
Yeah.
end of it, they find out that the One Ring will still control them all, so they're not able to use them after a certain point. But yeah, it's fun.
It's great because you gotta appreciate the predicament they're in. You know what I mean? To willingly use something that otherwise you probably wouldn't because there's a potential of it being tainted or potential of it doing something like the monkey's paw or something. Just like this is probably not a good idea, but what other choice do we have?
Well, yeah,
If
because
not, then we're dying.
I like how they were saying if we leave because we have to leave, we're dooming Middle Earth to be enslaved again.
Right. Yeah.
The men and dwarves can't fight this battle by themselves. We have to be here with them to
Right.
be able to stand up to the next Dark Lord.
Yeah.
So he was like, the High King was like, we have no choice in the matter but to use these unless we are going to doom Middle Earth to their fate.
Gandalf actually gets a ring eventually too, and I think it's this very powerful idea of like, yeah, this is probably a trap. I mean, they're from Sauron. This is probably a trap. This is probably not gonna, this is gonna come back to bite us. But I have enough faith in the people around me. I have enough faith of the people of Middle Earth to get through whatever challenge Sauron can throw our way. And at the end of the day, their faith is, prove useful or prove truthful. Because it's like at the end of the day, the smallest of folks did have the power to stand up, and you got Aragorn that did his thing, and Frodo and Sam did their thing, and
Yes,
at the end of the
Frodo.
day, they did win. So it's pretty cool to watch that all in action.
So as a whole, I'm ready for next week. I want more.
Yeah, I am too.
That is something I can't say I always was thinking last season.
Right, I wasn't either.
So this
we
season,
were a little overwhelmed when we covered the first season. We were also covering like 2 or 3 other shows with it. We really kind of overextended ourselves during that time period. But we're just focused on Lord of the Rings right now, baby.
there we go. So I mean, I think we've talked through our way through this a little bit here.
Yeah.
But if you guys are new to us, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you're watching us live, by all means, join the conversation. We love it when you do. It's always a better show when you do so. If you're watching recorded, drop a comment. I am usually on top of going ahead and responding to those and joining you in the conversation. But yeah, I mean, this is our Lord of the Rings, Power of the Rings after show. We're gonna be doing it. We're gonna do our best. I'm gonna put it that way, to have these on Friday nights at 8:30.
Yeah,
If
we're
you
gonna
guys
shoot
have
for that.
followed us at all, we are dads. We have kids.
Yeah,
Life happens.
full-time jobs that isn't podcasting.
Yeah. So please be a little have some grace. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
But do you have anything else to add?
No, other than we'll be here next week, and we look forward to you guys joining us again. And like Chris said, I mean, really, when we're on live, there's no paywall or anything. You can dive right in and leave comments, and we'll bring them up on screen and talk to you all live while we're on the air. But until then, we will see you next week. What should our tagline at the end be?
I was going to say, have second dinner.
Yeah, enjoy second dinner.